Hey everybody, this is Allison from Allylat Creations. How are you? Really good goodies I have for everybody tonight. Before I read, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. And share if you think other people may use this to gain knowledge. Someone got me a nader juice from Ron Hall, y'all. I am very fascinated with tornadoes, FYI, and meteorology. So if you hit me up on Twitter, I follow a bunch of storm chasers. But the t-shirts that I received, I thank the person who got that for me. All the proceeds are going to people who have been affected by storms, and if they need help, that the storm chasers that intercept some of these things, sometimes they stay back and they help people, and it helps with purchasing blankets and water and flashlights and other first aid kits and things of that nature. So it's a worthy cause, and Ryan Hall, y'all, is amazing. So go follow him, especially those of you in the Midwest and the Plains and the South, a big chunk of the United States. How's about that? Okay. My favorite Ra. So the last time I did a reading from the Law of One, we're talking about densities, moving up, but there's a chunk of questions that I feel all of you need to listen and read and learn from. And at the end, there's one question and answer in particular that I would like to go over. And just an FYI, if we are fractalizations of Creator, because he perfected us in his image, and we are on Earth as a stage of an experiment, as a hologram, as the Matrix, whatever you want to consider Earth. And we're playing out a role that we arranged with Creator to have soul growth and learn from experiences to better balance our chakras and to get our lessons in so that we could fully ascend. Well, we need to have negative in there. And the negative polarity is of God, Creator, Source, Infinite Intelligence, whatever you want to call it, the One. Again, people don't watch my videos. They just comment, oh, you're talking about the bad guys and everybody's infiltrated by the negative things. To an extent, yes, but it's for a greater good to learn from it and then dispel it. Become aware of it, learn from it, move on from it. We're in a paradigm now in this planet where a lot of people are now becoming aware of how bad things could have gotten if there wasn't divine intervention. And it's not just intervention from above. It's people who arranged with the one to play roles to help us awaken. What? Why a lot of people say it's biblical, because it is. But at the same time, all the books that I'm reading, it's playing out. If you've noticed and applied the now theory, what is going on in our paradigm right now? And then what was going on in the paradigm in the books that I've been reading? There's a theme. A theme. Dark to light. I just read Pistis Sophia. She's repenting because she's in the darkness. She can't move. And they're keeping her there, right? Keys of Enoch. The forces. The Crusaders in the Law of One. The Orion group. Baddies to Elena Denon and Alex Collier. The Anunnaki. The Emerald Tablets. I just listened to something Laura Eisenhower had. And she's really good with the astronomy aspect of things. And what she said really dawned on me that made me kind of pick some portions of the Law of One to read to you guys. But she was saying like everything is dualistic. So like when you're looking at astrology, each planet has certain meanings. And depending on the octave, you have your lower octaves, which are the negative, and then you have your upper, which is the positive. So each planet can express either the lower or the upper, and that's up to you to express the positive. But if you are a service to yourself, because that's the role chosen for you in this lifetime that you decided to take, then you're going to express the negative aspects of those things. And you're going to see when I read the Law of One, I'll go into that a little bit. Just like the serpent. Okay. There's the Kundalini arising in you. That's the serpent rising up your consciousness and whoop, the light to God. Not all reptilians are bad. Not all serpent imagery symbolism is bad. It's what it's used for. It's its intention. That's why when I'm reading the Gnostic or the quote unquote what normal people would call occult books, which aren't occult, it's going into symbolism to show you that there's a dualistic meaning to everything, and it's been hijacked. Now that we are becoming more conscious and aware of how everything has been infiltrated and inverted, now it's our turn to flip it and take it back. Like the number 33, like the number 13. The serpent is the same thing. It's how you interpret the symbolism and what it's actually literally used for that makes something good or bad. But we live in a third density dimension. It's about duality, and to move up, to be harvested, it's going to explain it to you. You need to have a balance of both. So how can we allow certain things that you think are make you want to throw up and cry because we needed to learn how not to repeat the damn past again. We did this already, guys. Hate to say it. Whether you want to believe it, time travel for me is real. I don't care what anybody says. I seen the documents. Real. But our souls have incarnated and reincarnated, incarnated over and over and over and over again. Some of us for a very long time. Some of us got trapped here. And as they went in to dumb us down through our genetics, some of us that should have been already out and up and away got stuck here. But it's all in the divine plan. So we got to put things into perspective. You're living a life. I'm living a life. Cat hair. That a lot of us are going through very difficult times. I know I am. And it's supposed to be a part of my soul rebirth. My phoenix rising. Again, dragons are bad. They're not. It's all to push the limits so that we can have our rebirth. The third dimension doesn't play fair. Not by any stretch of the imagination. And it's a test. Everything we have in our lives are a test, a challenge, or you are the one sparking the teaching, the learning. And it goes both ways. So just understand that that's why I follow the law of one very closely, because it makes sense to me. The way Rod talks about the chakras, the octaves, the levels of density and what is to be achieved in each level and why. And then it goes into, the questioner does really good questions about negative entities and why are they here and what goes on. Helps us understand the duality of things, and that's what it's meant to be. That's the experiment that Creator made, so that we can be balanced, that we can understand the dark sides of ourselves and the light sides of ourselves. And then we have free will to choose which direction and what path that we want to take. Regardless, everybody goes back to source eventually at some point in time. So whether they're negative or positive, negative has another path. But they're a catalyst for us to grow, to learn. I was in very abusive relationships. I've had my heart broken. I've had angels come recover me off the floor, hysterically crying because I emote love for others. I always give way more of myself than I ever should. I don't put boundaries up when I'm in love with somebody. And I get burnt and hurt in the end. And this life, I had to learn in the worst ways possible. No, you need to put boundaries up, because not everybody deserves the love that you emote. Not everybody understands you, and they do horrible things behind your back and to your face because they don't understand you or the capacity of where you are. But you learned. Might have been very painful, but you learned your lesson. You learned that is not the type of person that should be in your life. And if they are, they better shape their shit up. So now I'm aware. I'm not blinded anymore. I'm guarded. but I let it out. I have boundaries and I know what I want, right? And so all of you should be following that. Learn from the bad so that it doesn't repeat again. And as a collective social memory complex that we're all trying to become, that's why I say we all need to come together. We all hold a piece of the puzzle. Where's your piece and how does it fit? Is because on a collective scale, this is like an everybody lesson that needed to be learned. Whether you were aware for 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, 60 years, or 2 years, it doesn't matter. Collectively, everybody needs to wake up and understand what just took place, what is still continuing to take place, and how it needs to stop, how we all need to contribute to the new earth, to peace and prosperity on this planet, and for everybody to join in harmony. And F stereotypes, labels, division, because that's been there, done that, done with it. People got to stop labeling and stereotyping people, because that's division and that's what they want. Are you a good person? If you are, then you should understand what I'm saying. If you're bound by religion and you understand, but you judge, that's where it all needs to stop. Martin Luther King said it best. Judge a person by the character, not of the skin. Judge people for the character, who they are. And you'll know who they are. If they're a service to others, you're going to know it. And if they're a service to self, you're going to know it. Still give them love, but from afar. Put a boundary up. That's our learning. That's our seeking. That's our learning. That's the catalyst. That's what Ra talks about when we have catalysts. Things that set us, drive our soul into a learning path, into an understanding, equalizing and balancing out the chakras. Your lower 3 are the negative. Your upper 3 are the positive. And I'm not going above and below with the other colors. Just focus on what you have inside you. And to get those colors pure, not the hues, the pure color, you need to balance all of them. And it doesn't necessarily need to be anything more than just recognizing what's out of sync, what you need to learn in life, and go through those lessons. I need to forgive people for not standing up for my rights that are their rights. But I have to forgive those people who were brainwashed that didn't stand up and help me when I needed them. I have to forgive them because they didn't understand. They were only doing what they thought was right, even though it was wrong. And that's tough because I'm in a situation, none of them are helping me, but yet I have to forgive them. That's how we move on. Are you ready for juicy, raw fun? There's a bunch I'm going to not read about UFOs and the raw Orion stuff, but there's one thing in particular that I want to read for a specific somebody. Questioner. Well, we have a large spectrum of entities on Earth with respect to harvestability. both positively oriented and negatively oriented. Would the Orion group target in on the ends of the spectrum, both positively and negatively orientated, for contact with Earth entities? Ra. This query is somewhat difficult to accurately answer. However, we shall attempt to do so. The most typical approach of Orion entities is to choose what you might call the weaker-minded entity, that it might suggest a greater amount of Orion philosophy to be disseminated. Some few Orion entities are called by more highly polarized negative entities of your space-time nexus. In this case, they share information just as we are doing now. However, this is a risk for the Orion entities due to the frequency with which the harvestability negative planetary entities then attempt to bid and order the Orion contact, just as these entities bid planetary negative contacts. The resulting struggle for mastery, if lost, is damaging to the polarity of the Orion group. Similarly, a mistaken Orion contact with highly polarized positive entities can wreak havoc with the Orion troops, unless these crusaders are able to depolarize the entity mistakenly contacted. This occurrence is almost unheard of. Therefore, the Orion group prefers to make physical contact with only weaker-minded entity. So when people are channeling, you're listening to the channels, and you're listening to, people calling in Sananda and Ashtar Command and this one and that group and this group. You could do this through do this through the screen. You could see somebody's their positive vibes. You could tell if somebody's been infiltrated. If their vibes aren't high and you don't see the protection on them, but as Ross said, it's really unheard of if they're positively orientated beings with high vibration. So them upstairs can't infringe on our free will. So they give disinformation to see if we can disseminate it and discern from it. That's not what Ra is saying here, but that's logically where I sit with that whole conundrum of, well, they infiltrate you and they do all this stuff. They can, but if you put your shields up, if you do your work, if you are high vibing, they can't touch you. They don't want to, because like Ross says, it negates them. And then they can't be harvested into a higher density. And that's their goal. Their goal is the same as ours. They need to ascend just like we do. So they're not going to risk, they're way too smart. They're not going to risk jumping into somebody with high vibes. Can they attack? Sure, I've been attacked a bunch of times. But I've never been taken over. And then once my spirit team gets wind that I'm not okay, they come down and they help etherically. So just be aware. Attacks happen. I see it all the time. People do podcasts and live streams, and all of a sudden their Zoom goes off, their live streams are cut off, you can't hear them, they have to jump in and out, in and out, in and out. Things slow up on them as soon as they talk about certain topics. That's them trying to play. But they're not really doing much. So just be aware. of that concept. And now that you are aware, you can envision yourself in a bubble of light with mirrors reflecting out, so that whatever they're putting out to you reflects back onto them. There's other shielding methods you can use. That happens to be the easiest one because it's very easily visual. You can visualize it. I mean, it's not that hard to visualize mirrors around you back at them. So I wanted to read that because I think it's very important that people understand they can attack, but they can't take over you. And anybody who is channeling that is not doing what they need to do to prepare for the highest energy to come into them. And even then, they can get messed with. Carla was messed with a lot. But Ra had protections. They just had to cut out things and shorten out and make sure that she meditated and that she was blessed. So I just wanted to read that one part because I think a lot of people need to hear that it's okay. Okay. Questioner, I would like to trace the energy that I assume comes from the logos. I will make a statement and let you correct me and expand on my concept. From the logos comes all frequencies of radiation of light. These frequencies of radiation make up all of the densities of experience that are created by the logos. I am assuming that the planetary system of our sun in all its densities is the total of the experience created by our sun as a logos. Is this correct? Ra, this is correct. Questioner, I am assuming that the different frequencies are separated, as we have said, into the 7 colors. And I'm assuming that each of these colors may be the basic frequency for a sub-logos of our sun logos, and that a sub-logos, or shall we say an individual, may activate any one of the basic frequencies or colors and use the body that is generated from the activation of the frequency of or color. Is this correct? Ra, if we grasp your query correctly, this not correct, in that the sub-logos resides not in the dimensionalities, but only in co-creators or mind-body-spirit complexes. Questioner, what I meant was that a mind-body-spirit complex can have any body activated that is one of the 7 rays. Is this correct? Ra, this is correct in the same sense as it is correct to state that anyone may play a complex instrument which develops an euphorious harmonic vibration complex, such as your piano, and can play this so well that it might offer concerts to the public, as you would say. In other words, although it is true that each true color vehicle is available, potentially there is skill and discipline needed in order to avail the self of the more advanced or lighter vehicles. Questioner, once a mind-body-spirit complex becomes aware of this process, it then decides that in order to have the full abilities of the creator, it is necessary to reharmonize its thinking with the original creative thought in precise vibration or frequency of vibration. In order to do this, it is necessary to discipline the personality so that it is precisely conforms to the original thought. And this is broken into 7 areas of discipline, each corresponding to one of the colors of the spectrum. Is this correct? Ra, the statement, though correct, bears great potential for being misunderstood. The precision with which each energy center matches the original thought lies not in the systematic placement of every energy nexus, but rather in the fluid and plastic placement of the blending of these energy centers in such a way that the intelligent energy is able to channel itself with minimal distortion. The mind-body-spirit complex is not a machine. It is rather what you call a tone poem. Questioner, do all mind-body-spirit complexes in the entire creation have 7 energy centers? Ra, these energy centers are in potential in the macrocosm from the beginning of creation by the Logos. Coming out of timelessness, all is prepared. This is of the infinite creation. Questioner, then I will assume that the Creator, in its intelligent appraisal of the ways of knowing itself, created the concept of the 7 areas of knowing. Is this correct? Ra, this is partially incorrect. The logo creates light. The nature of this light thus creates the nature of the catalytic energy levels of experience in the creation. Thus, it is that the highest of all honor duties that given to those of the next octave is the supervision of light in its manifestations during the experimental times, if you will, of your cycles. See, we're an experiment. Questioner, I will make another statement. The mind-body-spirit complex may choose, because of the first distortion, the mental configuration that is sufficiently displaced from the configuration of the intelligent energy in a particular frequency or color of in-streaming energy, so as to block portion of in-streaming energy in that particular frequency or color. Is this correct? Yes. Questioner, can you give me an idea of the maximum percentage of this energy it is possible to block in any one color? Ra, there may be in an entity's pattern of in-streaming energy a complete blockage in any energy or color, or a combination of energies or colors. Questioner, okay, then I assume that the first distortion is the motivator or what allows this blockage. Is this correct? Ra, we wish no quibbling, but prefer to avoid the use of terms such as the verb to allow. Free will does not allow, nor would predetermined disallow experimental distortions. Rather, the law of confusion offers a free reach for the energies of each mind-body-spirit complex. The verb to allow would be considered prerogative in that it suggests a polarity between right and wrong, or allowed and not allowed. This may be and seem minuscule point. However, to the best of way of thinking, it bears some weight. Questioner, thank you. It bears weight to my own way of thinking. I appreciate what you have told me. Now, I would like to then consider the origin of catalyst. First, we have the condition of mind-body complex, which as a function of the first distortion has reached a condition or a blockage or partial blockage of one or more energy centers. I will assume the catalyst is necessary only if there is at least partial blockage of one energy center. Is this correct? No. Questioner, can you tell me why? Ra, while it is a primary priority to activate or unblock each energy center, it is also a primary priority at that point to begin to refine the balances between the energies so that each tone of the chord of total vibratory beingness resonates in clarity, tune, and harmony with each other's energy. This balancing, tuning, and harmonizing of the self is most central to the more advanced or adept mind body spirit complex. Each energy may be activated without the beauty that is possible through the disciplines and appreciations of personal energies, or what you might call the deeper personality or soul identity. Questioner, I would like then to trace the evolution of catalyst upon mind body spirit complexes and how it comes into use and it's fully used to create this tuning. I assume that the sub-logos that formed our tiny part of the creation, using the intelligence of the logos of which it is part, provides the base catalyst that will act upon mind-body complexes and mind-body spirit complexes before they have reached a state of development where they can begin to program their own catalyst. Is this correct? Ra, this is partially correct. The sublogos offers catalyst at the lower levels of energy, the first triad. These have to do with the survival of the physical complex. The higher centers gain catalyst from the biases of the mind-body-spirit complex itself in response to random and directed experiences. Thus, the less developed entity will perceive the catalyst about it in terms of survival of the physical complex with the distortions which are preferred. The more conscious entity, being conscious of the catalytic process, will begin to transform the catalyst offered by the sublogos into catalyst, which may act upon the higher energy nexi. Thus, the sublogos can offer only a basic skeleton, shall we say, of catalyst. The muscles and flesh having to do with the, shall we say, survival of wisdom, love, compassion, and service are brought about by the action of the mind-body-spirit complex on basic catalysts, so as to create more complex catalysts, which may in turn be used to form distortions within these higher energy centers. The more advanced the entity, the more tenuous the connection between the sublogos and perceived catalyst, until finally all catalyst is chosen, generated, and manufactured by the self for the self. So because I didn't take, I chose that. My higher self chose that. And in direct correspondence, I chose the catalyst of losing it all, but standing up for my morals and my dignity and my self morals and respect to my body, knowing the outcome could have been death. So I stood up for myself. And I have to learn how to move forward with this catalyst. So I'm just giving you an example. But I created it because I made that choice. We all have free will. And I'm not knocking anybody that took it. I know plenty of people that did. I don't love them any less. But these choices you already made. Like you wrote them into your Akashic records, like this is what I need. This is the catalyst I need for whatever the reasons are. We're going to find them out. But there's a reason why everything happens in your life. And sometimes you put catalysts in there to challenge your mind, body, soul, to give you experiences and knowledge to balance out your self. So though, yes, I am suffering to an extent, I try not to let it bother me. I try to approach it in a calm manner. Yes, I get overwhelmed and I get very sad because when I'm crying out for help, I'm not receiving much of anything from anybody. And not to say that I haven't been helped, and not to say that people don't help me. I take what I can get when I can get it, and I'm very appreciative and grateful for it. But there needs to be something done. So I'm reaching out to all the politicians and all the people that I can to say, hey, what's going on here? This isn't right. And I'm cleaning out my body soul matrix per se. Questioner, which entities incarnate at this time on the planet would be in the category of manufacturing all their catalysts? Ra, we find your query indeterminate, but can respond that the number of those which have mastered outer catalysts completely is quite small. Most of those harvestable at this time-space nexus have partial control over the outer illusion and are using the outer catalyst to work upon some bias which is not yet in balance. Questioner, in the case of service to self polarization, what type of catalyst would entities follow this path program when they reach the level of programming their own catalyst? Ra, the negatively oriented entity will program for maximal separation from and control over all those things in conscious entities which it perceives as being other than the self. Questioner, a positively oriented entity may select a certain narrow path of thinking and activities during an incarnation and program conditions that would create physical pain if this was not followed. Is this correct? This is correct. Questioner, would a negatively oriented entity do anything like this? Could you give an example? Ra, a negatively oriented individual mind, body, spirit complex will ordinarily program for wealth, ease of existence, and the utmost opportunity for power. Thus, many negative entities burst with the physical complex distortion you call health. However, a negatively oriented entity may choose a painful condition in order to improve the distortion toward the so-called negative emotional mentations, such as anger, hatred, and frustration. Such an entity may use an entire incarnative experience honing a blunt edge of hatred or anger so that it may polarize more towards the negative or separated pole. So the first question I read, a positively oriented entity may select a certain narrow path of thinking and activities during an incarnation and program conditions that would create physical pain if it were not followed. So those people that have illnesses, there's many reasons for it, not just of this. But I am in a lot less pain than I have been in years because I opened up myself major time. And this it carries on to the negative orientation. And you would classify people like this the narcissists. People really like exaggerate themselves and are all about themselves and no one else. And some of them make sure that their catalysts are set and hone in on things so that they can be harvested, but it's all pure evil. Questioner. Prior to incarnation, as an entity becomes more aware of the process of evolution and has selected a path, whether it be positive or negative, at some point, the entity becomes aware of what it wants to do with respect to unblocking and balancing its energy centers. At that point, is it able to program for the life experience, those catalytic experiences that will aid it in its process of unblocking and balancing? Is that correct? Ra, that is correct. Questioner. The purpose then of what we call the incarnate physical state seems to be wholly or almost wholly that of experiencing the programmed catalyst and then evolving as a function of that catalyst. Is that correct? Ra, we shall restate for clarity the purpose of incarnative experience is evolution of mind, body, and spirit. In order to do this, it is not strictly necessary to have catalyst. However, without catalyst, the desire to evolve and the faith in the process do not normally manifest. And thus evolution occurs not. Therefore, catalyst is programmed, and the program is designed for the mind-body-spirit complex for its unique requirements. Thus, it is desirable that a mind-body-spirit complex be aware of and hearken to the voice of its experiential catalyst, gleaning from it that which it incarnated to glean. So as a collective right now, okay, all of us who are of either polarity, doesn't matter, chose a major catalyst to be brought forth to the consciousness of all, not just some, to all. There are sleepy people, mind you, but the vast majority of people are waking up to the complete, utter infestation of the negative polarity that's been plaguing and consuming and corrupting the world's governments. We all chose this method and mode to be a catalyst for us to jump quite quickly. I mean, this has been going on for some time now, but collectively, in the last 3 to 4 years, people started becoming more aware of what has been going on and what's been taken from the people, and not ignoring other countries and other situations because it happens everywhere. Everywhere. We all chose to be here at this time and place now and chose a catalyst to wake us up so that we can better ourselves, come into a higher balance so that we can be harvested. And this time we don't have to die. Our physical vehicle doesn't have to die. We are being helped by upstairs so that we can take our fourth density body up until we become light beings, in my opinion. We'll become crystalline instead of carbon-based. But I don't know if that's in my time. It might be in our children's time. But mind you, we came here right now as a collective, and we chose this catalyst to wake us up to what has really been happening for thousands, if not millions of years of our time space. Within the catalyst that we all chose to jump us out of this sleepy state. And I mean, again, each of us we're all in different positions, right? We're all in different stages of learning. We all have our own catalysts that helped us wake up. And then we have catalysts that are pushing us to our limits so that it transforms us for the next phase of the ascension or the harvestability, or aligning our hues to its absolute color. This is all going to be reached individually at its own time that you arranged it to be aligned with you. There are many people who are already advanced that will be taking a step back. I feel like I'm one of those people. I'm not 100% sure. That is going to be the transition team to help people quantum leap into their 4D selves. So I will be in between both octaves of experience to help others understand what the hell just happened, and it's gonna start and drop soon. It's watch the news. I don't watch the black box, but I get a lot of news, and I can tell you right now, logic and reason, common sense isn't common anymore. But start thinking deeply and start questioning things outside of the box, and you're going to start to realize how you've been lied and manipulated too. Okay? That's why I'm reading The Law of One over again. I'm reading this series. This is a 5-series book. Ooh, the moon is pretty good right now. I'm reading this series of books. It's 5 parts. Rereading them because I didn't quite grasp it when I was in college. I understood it, but I didn't apply it. Now I can apply it because it actually pertains to now. It's helping us understand what our soul needs, what our higher self wants, what is it going to take for us to move up. And it honestly not much. But you determine your route. You as an individual determine how fast your wanting to go up is. And again, not everything is prearranged. You still have freedom of will. You still have choices you make, right? So the catalyst of the unveiling of the negative polarity that's been on this planet for millions of years is now finally coming to a head. More people are becoming more aware of the secrets and the things that have been held back from us for a very long time. Okay, this is not that it happened yesterday. A lot of this stuff did not happen yesterday. This stuff has been culminating and been hidden from us for decades. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And now the chasm opened up, the abyss opened up. And now we're seeing what's in the abyss. And that's why I'm reading Dante's Inferno. It's an ugly abyss. And there's levels to it. We've been deceived. And not one person. Everybody was asleep at one point to something. Doesn't need to be everything, but things are now coming to a head. And it's up to us to visualize, whether it be right before you go to sleep and you shut your eyes, how do you want to see not just your world that you inhabit, the entire planet? How do you want to see people? I don't want to see people in other countries suffering anymore. I don't want to see people being experimented on as guinea pigs for some sick lunatic's experiment. I'm done with that. Every human being is equal to one another because we're all one and the same. We all come from the same source. Whether you want to believe your God's better than my God and your God is better than this God and that, there's one. Love, light, energy, frequency, color, octaves. When you break it down and take the religious components out of everything, okay, again, like I say in other videos, you're conditioned by what your parents gave you and the region and where you live and the people that you're surrounded with. So if you were born in an Aboriginal tribe in the middle of the Amazon rainforest and you have never had contact with the white man, okay, or with the modernized man, you're not going to know anything that goes on in the real world, but their world is probably more pure and amazing than ours. Okay, but that's what their soul chose to incarnate as. Okay, they don't know about other religions. They might have like their stories and tales, but they follow their drum to their own beat. Does that make them any less of a human being than someone in another country that's more modernized? No, they're as equal to us as we are equal to them. When you take away the notion and start applying mathematics and energy and theory of science, and then inject some religious concepts, it harmonizes. Sacred geometry, it works. I know people that can do and have found and have most profound light bulb moments just drawing sacred geometry and understanding the shapes and the densities through that. I know people who understand quantum physics and string theory and quantum entanglement through math. They get it. They just insert the atoms and the newtons and the quarks and all those one little topics in the chemistry that makes us, because we are chemistry, we are matter, we have atoms, we have blood, we have plasma, we have neurons, we have electricity going through us. So all of this is like this huge giant experiment. Take what you were born with, take it out of the equation, unbias yourself. Then you can start inserting things that make sense back into the fold. The Keys of Enoch does that for you. Because the Keys of Enoch doesn't only just talk about religion, it talks about mathematics and physics and biochemistry with DNA. It infuses it all in one book with metaphysics. Not easy to read, but it infuses everything together and it's a beautiful, harmonious book. The Law of One is stating very similar things. So we chose a catalyst to come here to wake us up to the infringement of our free will. we have to decide whether we are a service to others, which also includes a service to Creator, which is a little bit of a harder path. But either way, you still end up into the same category, or you were a service to yourself, which at the end of the day, you still go back to Creator anyway. It's just what role you chose to play in this life and all the lives you played before it. So if you're listening to me, the majority of you, I'm sure, are good people and are service to others. There are some people in this world, I know plenty of them, who are narcissistic, who are all about themselves, all about vanity, all about greed, all about me, 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 me. And again, it's all about a balance. You can't service others if your cup is not full. So being selfish and taking care of yourself isn't a narcissistic trait. When you're staring yourself in the mirror and going back to what was said, and not doing anything for others, or you're not doing enough for others, you're a little unbalanced. Choose your path, and you can change it at any time. We all though need to understand that this is like go time right now, this period of time. We have a little bit of a window, okay? Things can go either way. We can end up on a negative timeline where we're all controlled, we own nothing, and they control us. And they dictate to us every aspect of the life. No, thank you, beam me up, Scotty. Or we can visualize a positive timeline where we're all prosperous, all abundant, no worries. I could keep doing this and get paid to do it and get an income and not have to ask and beg people to help me. I would love to do that. This is a dream for me. If I can make money, like be abundant from doing this and then taking my services outside to the people. I would love to do that. I would also love to work with the kids. I would love to do artwork with children and teach them about the shapes and the geometry, but also be more spiritual with them, awaken them. You know how many children are on this planet who are envoys? They're way more advanced than we are. The envoys now, they're very advanced because they're coming from us. Like I said, how many children that I worked with in my 8 years as a para always came over and played with my gems and told me which ones felt, hot, which ones were cold, which ones had energy on it, which ones vibrated for them. They have abilities. Their parents sure aren't tapping into that. They know who to go to. These kids understand. These kids gravitate towards people that have high vibes. And just being in their presence helps their energy grow. So if I could do that, give me that job. I would love to do that. That'd be amazing. I have my art degree. I just don't have my master's. I don't need it. My degree is like a master's degree. You're just paying for the piece of paper when it comes to, seriously, when it comes to art, you're just paying for the piece of paper. I mean, more than your master's. My bachelor's, I had to write a dissertation. I had to do a whole exhibition and everything. I had to write a lot. I had to do a lot of work. There's nothing more once you go through the extensive 4 years that you're going to learn in your master's besides learning how to teach others, possibly. You're just paying a professor to give you some hints. Anybody can do that. But that's on my end. So think about what is something that you would want to do to be a service to others. And that doesn't mean that if you're like a plumber and if you're working in an industry that you can't do the same things. Of course you can, because you're going to be able to improve what you already do. The whole paradigm is going to shift. Once all the exposure happens and all these people are starting to get exposed, you're seeing it more and more day by day. Things are coming out in the news. Things are starting to like make people feel uneasy that are asleep, that now we're starting to question things. They're seeing more and more evidence that things aren't right. Okay. So these are the people that many of us need to steer. But in the meantime, we're in between these octaves right now. We're in between these densities. We're in between 3 and 4. So we're in this sub octave and we swing back and forth because we're in both densities. We're not fully in 3, we're not fully in 4. We're not fully in 3, we're not fully in 4. So it's up to you to do your inner work, to do your shadow work, to balance out your negative self to your positive self. All of us have vices, all of us have habits, all of us have things that annoy other people. It's how do you come into harmony with both your aspects? No one's perfect. This is not a perfect world. There's always a fault in something. Don't make it a fault. See it as something to improve on. Balance it out, because you're not going to get rid of your dark evil self or your temper. You can better it. How you react to catalyst, you can better it. This whole journey of your soul is to better itself. And you put yourself in situations, whether it be divorces, losses, every interaction you have with another person is a lesson, or you are the teacher giving them a lesson. It's back and forth. It's a ping pong match. And each person is going to give you something, and each person you're going to give something. It's a give and take world, right? You ping pong. And sometimes, a lot of the times, that you just keep ponging on everybody because no one's ponging back at you. That happens. Then you got to find the balance. That's why I felt very much so that this needed to be read, because I'm looking at the news, I'm posting on Telegram, and I'm like, more is coming out, and a lot of people now need some direction. And Ra gives us our direction. He's pointing it out. He's sharing our incarnative experience of what it's for. And again, the negative entities were our catalyst. So you could see them as evil. I call them baddies, but they're here to wake us up. That was their role this life. They did heinous, horrible things, and they will be judged for those things. But some of them could even help it. And that's the life they chose. So they're going to live out their consequences of what they did. But at the end of the day, they'll ascend and they'll be put on a negative polarized planet, because that's the direction their soul wanted to take for their experience in this lifetime or the next. So yes, they're bad, but they are our catalyst to wake up. They help us understand how bad things can get and how to react, how to not be. If we didn't have that, we would not know. And we would not have the soul growth that we're all just quantum leaping into right now. So as much as you hate what's happening, I hate what's happening. I really do. I have to forgive them because they're giving me an experience. And it's seriously the first time this has ever occurred in the third 75,000 year cycle, however Ra puts it. We cycle. And those who don't make it or have said, you know what, I need more time, will get back into a 3D reality, and they will then go back to understanding they need self-identification. They need to look and identify with themselves and hopefully choose better catalysts to help them soul growth. Where other people like myself who've done this for the span of, I don't know how many times I was rebirthed. I'm going to find out eventually. Someone's going to tell me how many times I've been here. But it doesn't matter how many times I've been here. I know I'm an ancient soul. So I'm done with I'm done with the 3D experience. Let me move up. Let me be love and compassion. Let me be more of just everything that I want to exude onto others, which is just love and compassion. I know I have to get these things out, guys, because it is very important that I do. And it falls right in with this book. And I don't have my, I swear, I only like a page or two. So thank you for bearing with me. I hope you're getting something out of it. Tell me your experiences, guys. Yeah, I respond to comments. It might not be right away, but I do respond. Questioner. Then it seems that those upon the positive path, as opposed to those on the negative path, would have precisely the reciprocal objective in the first three rays, red, orange, and yellow. Each path would be obtaining to utilize the rays in precisely the opposite manners. Is this correct? Ra. It is partially and even substantially correct. There is an energy in each of the centers needed to keep the mind-body-spirit complex, which is the vehicle for experience. Avatar. In correct conformation and composition, both negative and positive entities do well to reserve this small portion of each center for the maintenance of the integrity of the mind-body-spirit complex. After this point, however, it is correct that the negative will use the three lower centers for separation from and control over others by sexual means, by personal assertion, and by action in your societies. Contrary-wise, the positive-oriented entity will be transmuting strong red ray sexual energy into green ray energy transfers and radiation in blue and indigo, and will similarly transmuting selfhood and place in society into energy transfer situations in which the entity may merge with and serve others, and then finally radiate onto others without expecting any transfer in return. That is coming. That is coming. Many empaths sort of do this already, but it's not complete. Questioner, can you describe the energy that enters these energy centers? Can you describe its path from its origin, its form, and its effect? I don't know if this is possible. Ra, this is partially possible. Questioner, would you please do that? Ra, the origin of all energy is the action of free will upon love. The nature of all energy is light. The means of its ingress into the mind-body-spirit complex is duple. Firstly, there is the inner light, which is Polaris of the self and the guiding star. This is the birthright and true nature of all entities. This energy dwells within. The second point of ingress is the polar opposite of the North Star, shall we say, and may be seen if you wish to use the physical body as an analog for the magnetic field as coming through the feet, from the earth, and through the lower point of the spine. This point of ingress of the universal light energy is undifferentiated until it begins its filtering process through the energy centers. The requirements of each center and the efficiency which the individual has learned to tap into the inner light determine the nature of the use made by the entity of these instreamings. Questioner, does experimental catalyst follow the same path? This may be a dumb question. Ra, this is not a pointless question, for catalysts and the requirements or distortions of energy centers are two concepts linked as tightly as two strands of rope. Questioner, you mentioned in an earlier session that the experimental catalyst was first experienced by the South Pole and appraised with respect to the survival value. That's why I asked the question, would you expand on this concept? Ra, we addressed the filtering process by which incoming energies are pulled upwards according to the distortions of each energy center and the strength of will or desire emanating from the awareness of inner fight. If we may be more specific, please query with specificity. This is why the other day I read from Schopenhauer this book and the will the world as will and representation. And the part that I read was the will to live and about death, because that covers a lot. It does. That's why I read what I do, because it all interplays together. It might not sound like it does, but it does. And you bring things together in hopes that other people kind of see the connection. I hope some of you saw that connection or thought about it. And that all depends if you saw the other video. So at this time, what the questioner and Ra is going on about is focusing on the positive polarity, like how do we balance and help ourselves unblock. I know that my heart chakra was blocked for a very long time, and I had a lot of exercises I would do with my left non-writing, non-dominant hand. I'm ambidextrous, so I can do a lot with both, but I'm a dominant right. I would write with my left hand heart chakra mantras like I am love. I accept love from others and I emote love to others. Stuff like that. I would write it all the time, all different ones. I would go online and look at which ones resonate with me and I would write it. There are a lot of guided meditations online that help you visualize opening up and balancing all your chakra centers. There are very advanced ones. There are very easy to follow, simple, anybody can do it. Everybody meditates differently. There's a lot of people that just don't have the time. So another suggestion is binaural beats. Each octave of color has a frequency. And a lot of these channels already, and a lot of these channels have the binaural beat frequencies that follow each chakra, and you can fall asleep to it to help you focus and balancing your energy from your subconscious. Now, to the negative Nancys out there who just want to think negatively constantly about everything that goes out into the netherworld. And of course, we want to protect our energy. I get that. But yes, there are some things infiltrated on platforms. Can't help it. I always say, resonate what works with you. Everybody is different. You're an individual. I'm an individual. What works for me might not work for you. What sounds good to me might not sound good to you. Again, they're catalysts. If you think that something's going to infiltrate you, it most likely will, because you're willing it to be into putting it in a manifestation. So stop doing that. Just don't allow it. Put your foot down, and I'm a sovereign being. I have free will, and I don't consent to anything that's negative that wants to influence me. Mantra right there. I don't consent to any being coming into myself and in my awareness that is of the negative polarity or has ill will intent towards me. I don't consent. I'm a sovereign being. And anybody that has watched the abduction stuff that I have done or has had negative things happen to them, start standing in your power. Start standing in your sovereign, God-given power. You are a creator. You create things, right? You create a drawing, you create a book, you create music, you create. Even if it's just a stick figure, you're creating. A lot of these beings can't do that. They can't just think of something and do it. They're told what to do. It's a hive mind. That's what they all wanted for us. They all wanted the AI to control us like zombies. You're not a zombie. It's fun to play one and dress up like one, but no. Think of the Game of Thrones. I go back to this. I swear I'm going to try to do an episode with visuals and everything on this theory that I have. That show tells you all of it. It is the ultimate of the truth, in my opinion. Not only do you have dragons, you had two good and one had to turn bad. Well, then two came bad and one went bye-bye. Okay? You had the dead rise up all at once, all in control of the Night King. Okay? I'm sorry, if you have not watched the Game of Thrones, it's worth watching anyway, no matter what I tell you. Watch it. It's freaking amazing. And that's the only show I can bona fidely tell you, even though there's a lot of junk in there and the last season's shit. Watch it. Because watch it in the time of now. Take all the castles and all the kingdoms and all the banners and all the stuff, and then apply it to what's happening now. There's old gods, there's new gods, there's the wall, what's beyond the wall, the giants, all these creatures. And then there's all the politics. And then there's all the good deeds. And then you think someone's good and then they turn evil. And then the one that sacrificed it all at the end became a queen. And the one that was left paralyzed with powers nonetheless. It's worth watching that show to show what is happening now. And you determine who you want to play in this game called life. You determine who you want to be. You have to step in your authenticity and find out who you really are, not what society dictates for you to be. Not because that magazine has Louis Vuitton, not because that car is over $100,000 and you have to have it because you have to show it off to everybody. That's great. If you can afford that, beautiful. More power to you. Is it practical? Not where I live because the roads here are horrible. Just, what do you want to be? How do you want to serve humanity? And if you're somebody that wants to serve the creator, which many of us are, inadvertently, unknowingly are, I know that I'm directly working with creator. I'm being channeled information to give out to people. I give advice. It's usually channeled. Most of my rants is a message from my higher self that's connected to infinity and streaming to everybody. I'm not the only one that does this. A lot of people do it. A lot of people aren't even aware that they do it, and they do it. Because we are creators. We are fractalizations of creator. We are playing on the grand stage of this level, right? We're in a video game. We're playing a game. You're a character. You get to choose what you want to be, and then you move up. How do you move up? You got to balance yourself out. You got to balance your good and your bad because you're both. So accept that. Accept the fact that you're not perfect. Accept the fact that you have a dark side. Embrace it. Use it for the positive. Again, you're living a human experience, right? So it's okay to be sexual. It's okay to have extreme things that you're into, because that's the experience that you wanted, because you're going to learn from those experiences. Someone might consider that bad, but as long as it's not harming or killing somebody, have at it. Have at it. It's a life experience. We all have to live these lives. We all have to go through things. We all have to learn. We all have to have extremes happen to us to wake us up to the learning of how not to repeat those things. We have to understand how to confront death, how to embrace when someone's passing. Both my parents passed, one in front of me and one I got to see one more time. My father I didn't get to see die in front of me. He was in the hospital on a respirator in ICU. My mother died in the emergency room right in front of me. Of course, I was exhausted and stressed. I cried, but I was relieved. I was actually relieved because they were suffering. And I smiled at both their funerals. I was actually happy. I celebrated their life because they're both beautiful souls. You got to take that within you to understand grief sucks, but you learn a lot from it. You learn what they did, how not to repeat what they did that was negative, and take everything that they've done and move it on with you and take a piece of them with you that is of the good, and stop and forget all the past negative energies because it's back there and you're not going back there again. Like the Vikings, like Ragnar, don't look back because there's nothing there for you anymore. Move forward. So we need to take this giant quantum leap forward into the new world, which is not yet formulated just yet. We're in this in-between loop of hell because we still have to wait for some people to wake up. But we can increase this odds of more people waking up if we all just start talking about what's been going on in the world and what doesn't seem right and how we can fix it, and without judging other people. Everybody I know is this, okay? Besides the people that probably are watching, and it's, again, not a judgment, but the agenda is coming out. The documentation has already been out. You're going to see what happened. You're going to see the unfoldment of things. It isn't going to be pretty, and it's not going to be fun to have to watch everybody understand the mistake they made or not. It's up to them to decide what they want. But to know what the agenda was behind it is really where the message needs to go. And to know that we're repeating 1938, FYI, where people just stood back and did nothing until no one was left to defend. Like, no one stood up to do, not many people stood up to go to the rallies and the marches when I lost my job. I went because I was fighting for my freedom and my job and the rights that I have under my Constitution. Other people didn't. But when it was their turn, when their heads were on the chopping block, oh, we're going to cross the bridge, we're going to do all this crazy nonsense. Oh, but you couldn't stand up from the beginning to fight for others. That's why people like, go to Florida. No, I'll pass because that's where half of New York is going. And I don't want to be around people that couldn't stand up for me in the first place. And they're going down there because who knows what the reasoning is. But I don't want to be around people that couldn't stand up for me in the first place. So just keep in mind, when going about everyday life, as you're transforming into the person that you want to be, your authentic self, you're balancing your good and your negative. You're balancing yourself out so that you can move forward. You can be a help and a service to others. You have to work on yourself, right? Take what Ra has instilled within our chakra system, do the binaural beats, do the visualizations, shield yourself, do some of that work. And there's plenty of other people who talk about that and do guided meditations. The Reality Revolution with Brian Scott is absolutely a tool that I use constantly. I play a lot of his 8-hour sleep meditations for prosperity, for abundance, for chakras. There's a lot out there. You just have to explore which one works for you, and you got to try them out. So try some of those things out. They're not hard. It's freezing still here in New York. I'm in a sweater. It's April 20th. I'm in a sweater. That's not normal for here. Not at all. It is not normal to be this late in April and to have sweaters on. And I'm wearing 2 layers of pants. Yeah. It's not normal. But go into nature, hug a tree, touch a tree, get all that negative stuff out of you. I try to do it every day. I try to ground my energy. I can't change my situation until I either A, move, which I am slowly in the process of still gathering things up to sell. I'm not having too much success. And I'm pricing everything really cheap, but I still need to make a profit so that I can move. But either way, I still have to pay the bills. Just be aware of what's going on in the world. And if you are unsure, Telegram is where it's at, where I can freely, I have a chit chat where you could talk to me. And then I just have my channel where I put out information. And you can, and on the chit chat, you can share information too. I welcome it as long as it's done respectfully. I post a lot of different types of stuff freely. And it'll give you the idea of what's happening. If you're not sure, if you're kind of lost, like what is she talking about? What's going on? I can catch you up there. Again, everybody's going to be on their own time frame to waking up. So do not feel at all upset, sad, or don't compare yourself to other people. You're an individual and your experiences are individualized by design. My co-host says hi, by the way. Say hi, Mama. So you might not be aware of what's going on right now. It wouldn't help. It wouldn't be a bad idea to find out. So it lessens the blow when things do go down. And I mean, each day it's more and more. More and more is being exposed. So I'm here, reach out. I will steer you in a direction. There are things I can't say here. But otherwise, I hope each and every one of you has a really good night. I hope what I've read resonated with people. I know that I took an offshoot off and went on my own tangents with it, but I think it's necessary that it's a topic that covers all the books that I've been reading because it all connects and ties into each other. You just have to find the nuggets that it does. And Ra, the Love One, all those nuggets fit into all those books, believe it or not. It does. And even though that Ra said I did an episode about what he had to say about Yeshua and the 10 Commandments and everything, not easy to hear for people that are followers, but it doesn't matter because the Christ consciousness, his actual teachings that I'm reading about, especially in Pistis Sophia, will help us grow into the consciousness of him and Mary, not just him. It's Mary as well. It's the divine feminine, the divine masculine. And you have to embrace both aspects of yourself. And that's why in the Keys to the Universe, it goes into that. You need a balance of both. And it shows you numerically how that happens. And a lot of the other books that I have read, it's giving you the keys, whether it be religious or not, how to correlate all these things into waking up, into bettering yourself. And that's all I'm here trying to do. And we're all at different stages, so I don't expect everybody to get it the first time or to make those connections. But if I'm pointing them out, I hope some of you, the light bulb goes off. That's my goal, light bulbs. Tesla light bulbs. Free energy, let's go, baby. With that, I hope all of you have an amazing, fantastic night. Please look into those things I've been saying with the meditations, the sleep meditations, grounding, chakras, binaural beats. Try them out. You might not like them and you might like them, and it might be something that you put into your everyday practice. So try it. It doesn't hurt. Okay. And if you feel like it's something that's not good for you, turn it off. We all don't resonate with the same things. But remember, the negative stuff is a catalyst for us to grow. So stop the fear. That's what they feed off of. And move into the polarity and the person that you're meant to be for this time and now, so that all of us collectively can move together and work together for a more harmonious world, because I'm sure all of us that are watching want that for everybody. Okay? Sending each and every one of you love and light. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to hit that like button if you can't help me with the love donation. This is free. Subscribe, share, pass the word around. The more this reaches other people, the better aware others are. Especially people just waking up to the paradigm of what's happening in the world. Okay, we need to help each other out, and that this is my way of trying to help humanity. And help everybody that listens to my favorite Jason. So, see you on the next one. If you can afford this book series, it's very interesting. It's not hard to read. Some of the concepts are hard, but just keep rereading it or just skip it and go back to it at another time. Raw. The love one. See you in the next one, guys.